Hey everyone, Sir Jellybean here, and we're back with CallToArms Gates Hell-Ostfront tutorial, and this time we're talking mines. Now mines come in two types, anti-personnel and anti-tank. Obviously anti-tank for destroying vehicles, and anti-personnel to just kill infantry and maybe in place weapons that kind of roll over them. Now first to know, anti-tank mines will only be triggered by vehicles because of the weight, and anti-personnel mines can be triggered by people or vehicles, so you've got to think about your placement of them. So, for instance, you won't place anti-personnel mines where maybe you place anti-tank mines, because sometimes they'll be triggered by the vehicle and do very little effect. Now, obviously, anti-tank mines give a bigger kick than anti-personnel, so you tend to get less of them in a mine trooper. So, for instance, in Conquest, an anti-tank trooper will normally carry anti-tank mine trooper will carry 8 anti-tank mines, 8 of these little things here, and an anti-personnel miner will carry 16 of these. So you normally get 32 with a group of 2 for anti-personnel and 16 for anti-tank. Now, first we'll do the anti-tank. Think about placement. Now, easiest one is roads. The AI especially will try and stick to roads because they get that bonus. Now, for instance, this is a great scenario. There's water either side, there's a road, there's lots of trees around. The AI is going to try and avoid trees. It's going to try and come straight down the main road. Let's say we're trying to defend this village. These mines here, perfect placement. Now, I tend to spread them like this. You might do them differently. And this is like standard, diagonal. The reason I do it like that is if an explosion happens, if they're all in a straight line, they'll get blown up this way. There's less chance of them being detonated together. Also, if a tank hits the first one and the vehicle comes round, so the AI tries to flank to the right or left, there's a good chance they'll dip back on the road and hit one of the other mines. So it's good to have a bit of spread. And remember, in this game, because it's more realistic, the mine has to actually be touched. So a tank has to roll directly over the mine to detonate. There's none of this, I came close to it and it went off. It has to hit the mine exactly. Not only that, but you also want to look for choke points when it comes to anti-tank mines. So look over here, there's this kind of hills bit. So the AI will not normally try and roll tanks straight over hills. There's boulders, there's trees in the way. So the most obvious choice is the road or this kind of low terrain here. So if you did try and push through here, there's a mine there, and then there's 2 on the road and 1 just to the left. So there's a good chance you will track an enemy vehicle. Mines very rarely take out the bigger tanks, but it has been known. So most of the time it will disable it, giving you options to engage it. And there's obviously mines. For instance, I put mines on this junction here. So if I was defending here, there's a good chance the enemy, if they push through, let's say they got through all my outer defences, they would try and push further into the village. Well, that is a prime place to try and get through this kind of T-junction. So placing mines there around there is like a fallback, can be very useful. So anti-tank mines are pretty simple, tend to stick them near roads, all kind of areas where buildings narrow, if you're defending kind of into an urban environment, where you've got a defence in depth, where you've got multiple layers, you can kind of bait them into a kill zone, which can be great. Next, we have the anti-personnel mine. So I've just set up a large anti-personnel minefield here. This is kind of standard deployment which I use, which is the zigzag. And as you can see, like that means if the enemy AI runs and detonates, let's say this mine first here, it might get through the second, but if you try and go to the side, and this will work on multiplayer, they will hit the other one. So it's good to spread it out. There's less chance of explosions destroying them all together. This is obviously, don't leave these kind of minefields alone either. The best thing is to have a few, like a machine gun or an armoured vehicle or some kind of emplacement defending them. Minefields should be kill zones. So the mines are there to obviously stop the enemy and kind of inflict more casualties. But they're not the best passive defence. If you just leave them alone, they might be avoided. But if you drive the enemy into them, so imagine here the enemy's attacking, we've got these infantry. Well, as you can see, I've placed them away from the fence because the AI can't run straight through the fence. There is a few gaps, but if they push up here to the fence, the SMG troops can easily kill them. And if they try and push up over here and get caught in the minefield, it'll cause mass casualties. It's also useful, large minefield. You can sometimes use it as something if, like, you're trying to fall back. So imagine this large minefield here. If you had forces placed further ahead, your allied forces can run through a minefield no problem. So you can easily fall back and the AI tries to push against you and they will fall into the minefield, which can be great. Another use of anti-personnel mines is choke points. So look at this building here. So if the AI was trying to use the cover, that mine could detonate there. There's also a mine in between these gates, kind of the open bit of the wall. And then if we look further back here, I'll place them wherever there's a gap between a building or a fence or anywhere on the buildings where, let's say this is the defensive point, the AI is obviously going to try and use the open areas to move troops in. So if you place mines in the doorways, these mines can kill 2 or 3 people sometimes. So it can sometimes be better than making a minefield to actually use them as these kind of small choke point holders, especially if you're lacking men or you're low on resources and you're having to defend. A miner can really tip the scale of the battle where they lose 5 or 6 men just to a few mines, sometimes a lot more. Another option with anti-personnel mines is something that I haven't really done much in my conquest, but I'm going to try and start doing more. This kind of standard V shape. As you can see, I've got a tank in place on the hill. Now, let's say you have a few troops to defend it, but you haven't got that much to spare, but you have mine troops. Putting this kind of V of mines will stop the enemies getting particularly close with things like grenades. So imagine this position, you've got a very good position for your tank. Now, very good for enemy infantry and tanks as they come in, but as they get closer, the tank cannot shoot that low. As you can see, look, he's stopped by the actual turret's depression and the terrain that he's on. So enemy infantry could potentially, if they got close, move up the flanks. So having these mines is just a little surprise warning that can kill them off. It'll also mean that you only need a few infantry to support, because if the infantry, for instance, are laying down, as the enemy hits the mine, then you can quickly just chuck a grenade in and finish off what's left, and maybe even pop up, you know, and put some rounds down range. As you see, the mine didn't even detonate to the grenade, so they're quite grenade resistance. Yeah, so mines, they're not too difficult to place. Literally just hold shift and click where you want them. But in my conquest recently, or the last few, I just tend to kind of put them random. But if you do put a bit of thought into it, you can quite easily make some very defensive positions or make some horrible choke points, where depending on the map and depending on the layout of the terrain, you can absolutely do brutal things, especially if anti-tank mines are placed in somewhere where enemy vehicles are coming. It can do devastating effects. Another thing as well, you can place them, let's say the enemy was spawning in over here, you can just lay loads of mines where they spawn in, but that is a bit cheesy, a bit cheaty. I tend not to do that. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. If you did, like, subscribe and leave a comment, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a fantastic day.